When you think of zombies, you might think of something like this. However, that's not the most type of common zombie. Right now, there's a zombie apocalypse going on in the temperate forests of Europe and North America. Oh. This animal right here is the Leocliridium paradoxum. It thrives within the temperate forests of Europe and North America. It is a parasitic worm, so in order to develop, it must have a moist environment. The worm feeds on the passing digested food and bodily fluids of up to 15 species of birds. Most species rely on their eggs not being eaten to survive. However, the Leocliridium paradoxum is the exact opposite. It lays its eggs within the feces of a bird and relies on it being consumed by a snail. Once the eggs are consumed within the feces by the snail, the real magic begins. The sporocytes accumulate within the tentacles, giving the snail vibrating and pulsating eyes, which attracts birds because they think it's a caterpillar. Also, the parasitic worms alter the behavior of the snail and cause it to climb to the top of grasses and trees. You may be asking yourself, what do the pulsating eyes and the strange behavior of climbing to the top of trees and grasses do for the worm? Well, it does a lot. The worm's ultimate and final host, where it feeds, as I previously mentioned, is a bird. So these pulsating eyes make the snail look more like a caterpillar, and climbing to the top makes it easier accessible to the birds. If you haven't connected the dots already, this parasitic worm alters the behavior of the snail and takes control of it. Well, what does that sound like to me? Sounds like a lot like a zombie. Once the parasitic worm is inside its final host, it moves down to the rectum of the bird, where it will feast on its bodily fluids and passing digested food. Once the parasitic worm is ready to reproduce, it lays an egg within the rectum of the bird where it already is, so that the eggs can be excreted within the bird outside onto leaves or some kind of place where it can be consumed by the snail, where it will ultimately develop. This parasitic worm does not have any direct predators. However, it dies if it is not ingested by the right species or does not reach the appropriate part of its host's body. As you could already probably conclude on your own, the niche that this worm takes up is awfully specific. It is an endoparasite of the Sucenius snails and different bird species. I know this was a lot of information, so I'll quickly summarize the life cycle of the Leocliridium paradoxum. It starts in the rectum of a bird, where the eggs are laid within the excrement and excreted out onto some surface where they are consumed by a snail, usually the Suceniid snail or Sucenius snail. Once inside the snail, the eggs develop into sporocytes, where they accumulate into the internal organs and tentacles of the snail, giving the appearance of a caterpillar. The snails, being photophilic, instinctively move to the tops of grasses and trees, where they are easily picked off by birds, assuming that the snail is actually a caterpillar. Once inside the bird, the parasitic worm moves to the rectum, where it feasts on bodily fluids and ultimately lays its eggs within the rectum that are excreted, therefore restarting the life cycle.